Snowmelt steps. On this gentle walk we'll start high in the last snow of winter and follow a clear stream as it grows, turn by turn, into a lively spring river. You'll walk beside it as it trickles under snow, crosses meadows, slips through a short gorge, and finally reaches the quiet valley below. The first sound is very small. It's not loud enough to be called a creek or a brook yet. Just a steady dripping under the crust of old snow. The hillside is still mostly white, smooth in some places and rough in others, where the wind has carved low ridges. Here and there, dark rocks poke through with a ring of dampness around them, like halos made of melted snow. Your boots crunch softly with each step. But underneath that sound, you can hear the tiny patter of water running in channels that you can't quite see. When you stop and listen, the hillside speaks in drips and quiet trickles, all heading downhill with the same patient intention. A faint line appears where the snow has thinned into slush, slightly grey and heavy, sinking toward the earth beneath. A twig lies there, half buried, with beads of cold water sliding along its length. The air is cool and very clean, with a faint smell of wet stone and distant pine. Above you, the sky is pale and wide, a soft background for this first stirring of spring. You follow the sound until you find where the snow has opened. A narrow cut runs through it, like a small trench where the sun has done its work. In the bottom of that trench, the first stream shows itself properly, no longer hiding, but moving in a clear ribbon over dark soil. The water is so transparent that you can see grains of sand rolling along the bottom, tumbling slowly as they go. Thin shards of ice cling to the edges of the cut, not yet ready to let go, with drops forming on their points and falling in steady rhythm. A small birch sapling stands nearby, its white trunk stained at the base where the meltwater has splashed it. The bark is peeling in thin curls that look almost like paper, edges softened by the damp air. When you reach down to touch the stream, it is sharp and cold, but not shocking. More like the kind of cold that wakes your hand rather than bites it. The current moves around your fingers and doesn't seem to mind your presence at all. You pull your hand back and watch as the surface settles, smoothing out again into a tiny, clear flow. The stream threads its way between buried rocks, and you walk alongside on a narrow path where earlier boots have already flattened the snow. On your left, the slope rises toward darker pines that still hold pockets of snow in their branches. On your right, the land falls away in shallow steps, where the water has carved a route for itself over many years. In one place, the stream forms a miniature waterfall, no taller than your hand, dropping from one rock to another with a bright, steady sound. The foam at the bottom is white and fine, clinging to the stone before dissolving back into clear water. Moss has already woken up on the rocks, a soft green that looks almost lit from within when the sun touches it. Between the moss and the snow, there is a narrow band of bare ground, dark and rich, dotted with last year's leaves. A few of those leaves have been caught in the water and swirl slowly in an eddy, turning over and over without hurrying anywhere. You step over a fallen branch and feel the path become a little softer, more earth than snow now. The sound of the stream steadies in your ears, a constant companion as you continue downhill. Soon the trees open slightly, and you come upon a small wooden footbridge. It's just wide enough for one person at a time, with a handrail made from smooth, rounded branches. The wood is darkened where years of hands have rested on it, and beads of water cling along its underside, ready to fall. The planks of the bridge are damp, but they feel solid under your boots as you step to the middle and pause. From here, you can see that the stream has grown a little broader, perhaps the width of your two hands held side by side. Pebbles of grey, brown, and faint blue lie on the bottom, arranged naturally in patterns that match the flow. Some stones are still rimmed with ice, thin collars that are slowly cracking and slipping away. A tiny swirl of bubbles travels under the bridge, trapped against the bank for a moment before the current pulls it free. On the far side is a wooden marker with barely visible carving, the letters smoothed by time and weather. A small path branches off toward a lonely cabin you can just glimpse between the trees. Its metal chimney letting out a thin writhen of steam. Someone there is warming their hands while you stand here and listen. You stay just long enough to feel the bridge gently answer to the water's movement below. Beyond the bridge, the snow retreats more quickly. Patches of dark earth widen between the remaining white, and the path becomes a mixture of mud and old leaves. Each step makes a soft, squelching sound that blends easily with the stream's murmur. Alder and willow shrubs lean over the water, their branches bare, but tipped with small buds that look ready to open with just a little more warmth. Thin roots reach into the bank where the soil is already wet and loose. In one corner, tucked under a rock ledge, a finger of snow still clings stubbornly in the shade, its surface rough and grainy like sugar. Meltwater drips steadily from its underside, feeding the stream with clear drops that fall and vanish without a ripple. A little further on, the ground flattens, and the water slows in a shallow bend, fanning out over a bed of tiny stones. Here the stream looks like glass laid over patterned fabric, every pebble beneath it sharp and distinct. When you kneel to look more closely, you can see fine threads of plant roots moving like hair in the current, barely swaying as the water passes them. The air has a new note now, carrying the faint smell of thawed soil, clean and alive. The stream gathers small companions as it goes. On the left, another thread of water appears, running down from a separate patch of snow higher up, and joins your stream with a bright, brief splash. Where they meet, the water curls together and then smooths out again, slightly deeper and stronger. You can hear these little joinings before you see them, each one a slightly different tone in the background sound. In a shallow hollow, the combined water has made a pool as wide as a small room. The surface there is calmer, broken only where the water enters and leaves. At the edges of the pool, the bank is soft and muddy. dotted with small hoof prints from deer that have come to drink in the quieter hours. A feather lies near one edge, mottled brown and white, its tip darkened by the damp ground. In the pool itself, a few leaves and a pine needle cluster drift slowly in circles, taking their time in the stillness. You watch as a bubble rises from the sandy bottom and pops at the surface, leaving just a single widening ring. Above, a thin cloud moves lazily across the sky, dulling the sun for a moment and cooling the air on your face. As you continue, the trees grow taller and closer together. Spruce and fir stand like quiet pillars on either side of the stream, their trunks lined with patches of lichen in pale greens and greys. The ground between them is littered with fallen needles that make your footsteps soft, almost silent. The water here sounds louder, not because it has changed very much, but because the forest holds the sound, reflecting it back to you. You notice small bridges made by nature itself, where branches have fallen across the stream and caught on both banks. One of them is covered in moss, forming a fuzzy green bar just above the water, and droplets hang from its underside. On a sunlit patch of bank, the first hardy shoots of grass have pushed through the old needles, thin and bright, almost glowing against the darker ground. A squirrel darts along a branch overhead, pauses to look down at you, tail flicking once, then disappears into the higher branches without a sound. In a nearby patch of snow, delicate tracks show where a bird has hopped, each print a perfect three-pointed shape. All around, the forest smells of resin, damp bark, and the faint metallic scent of cold water. The stream, always moving, carries all these scents along its path. Eventually, the forest thins, and the land opens into a small meadow. Here the snow has broken into scattered islands, white shapes floating in a sea of dull brown grass. The stream runs along one edge of the meadow, a clear line between old winter and early spring. The grass near the water is pressed flat where the snow has recently retreated, still dark with moisture. Tiny shoots are already starting to straighten among the flattened blades, testing the air. A pair of crows walks in the center of the meadow, not flying, just stepping with careful, deliberate movements as they search the ground. Every so often, one of them finds something interesting, tilts its head, and then moves on. Near the far side, a fallen log lies half in sun and half in shade. Its bark split to reveal pale wood beneath that is already softening with age. The stream reflects the sky here in broken strips of blue and white, shattered by each ripple and restored again a moment later. When a breeze passes, the surface shivers, and the reflection of a cloud flickers like breath on glass. You walk along the edge of the water, feeling the softness of the meadow under your feet. At the lower end of the meadow, the stream passes close to a small, weathered hut. Its walls are made from rough boards, silvered by many seasons, and the roof is heavy with dark shingles. A narrow path, just 2 boot widths wide, leads from the door to the water's edge. A wooden bucket rests there, turned upside down, beads of moisture still clinging to its rim from a recent use. The hut's single window is misted on the inside, and through it you can just make out a shelf lined with jars and an old kettle. A pair of worn boots stands neatly side by side on the doorstep, suggesting that the person who wears them is inside resting. A thin trail of smoke rises from a simple metal pipe in the roof, drifting straight up in the still air. Someone in this hut knows the sound of this stream through all the seasons, from thin winter trickle to full summer rush. Today the water is still modest, no taller than your ankle, but its edges are bright and busy where it moves over stones. You pass quietly, letting the resident keep their peace, and listen as the bucket creaks softly in the faint breeze. Soon after the hut, the ground begins to tilt more steeply. The stream picks up speed, cutting a clearer channel through the earth and stone. On one side, a low rock face rises up, its surface wet and dark where the water in the soil seeps out and runs down in fine threads. Small patches of bright green plants cling to the rock, their leaves shiny with moisture, as if they have been polished. A few leftover icicles hang from a shaded overhang, thin and hollow, dripping rhythmically into the water below. The sound here is livelier, a quick tumbling chatter as the stream descends in small steps, each drop a miniature cascade. You move carefully along the narrow path, feeling the roughness of exposed stones under your soles. The air in this short, shallow gorge is cooler, held in place by the rock walls and the shade. Ferns are already unfurling from tight coils at the base of the stone. Their new leaves a fresh, tender green. Mist from the falling water touches your face and hands, leaving a cool trace that quickly fades. The small gorge doesn't last long. As you emerge, the land widens again into a broader valley floor. The stream now looks more like a young river, perhaps as wide as a small road, though still shallow in most places. Its banks are clearer, lined with stones smooth from years of movement, ranging from the size of your fingernail to the size of your hand. Driftwood logs lie at gentle angles where past floods have set them down, their surfaces bleached and ridged. On one of them, a little patch of moss has made a home, and a single last-year seedling has taken root in the decayed wood. The air feels different here, softer and slightly warmer, carrying the distant smell of smoke and cooking from somewhere down the valley. A bird with a bright chest flicks from rock to rock near the water, stopping now and then to dip its beak and toss back a sip. Further along, a cluster of reeds has taken advantage of a quiet bend, their dry stalks clacking gently when the breeze moves them. The river's voice has deepened, but not grown harsh. A steady, confident flow that fills the open space without overwhelming it. In the distance, you can now see the outline of a small village where the valley narrows again. The roofs are mostly low and simple, with one taller building whose steeple makes a thin point against the sky. The river runs beside the houses, separated from them by a strip of grass and a line of stones placed as a simple bank. Near one of the houses, children are kneeling at the water's edge, dropping small sticks into the current and watching them float away. Their voices carry faintly, but the details are lost. To you, it is only a soft pattern of sound, woven into the river's song. A dog lies nearby on its side, stretched out in a patch of sun, only lifting its head when one of the children laughs particularly loudly. A shallow wooden boat is pulled up onto the bank, its underside still damp from being hauled out of the water earlier. A narrow footbridge of flat stones crosses the river here, each step just above the surface. You follow the path that keeps to the river's outside edge, letting the life of the village remain a gentle, distant presence, rather than your destination. The water has been your guide, and you stay with it as it curves calmly past these homes. Past the village, the valley quiets again. Fields open up on either side, edged by low fences and bare hedges that have not yet leafed out. The river moves with more assurance now, wide and smooth in many places, with only occasional chattering where it narrows over a line of stones. On the far bank, a line of poplar trees stands in a loose row, their trunks pale and straight, reflecting in the water as thin grey columns. As the afternoon light softens, these reflections stretch and blur, losing their edges. A heron stands motionless in a shallow area near the shore, one leg hidden, watching the water with steady patience. From time to time, it shifts its weight almost imperceptibly, but it does not strike, content just to wait. A few early insects skim the surface, leaving tiny dimples in the water where their feet touch. The air has a faint, sweet scent now, maybe from some hidden blossoms further along, carried to you by the river's steady breath. You walk more slowly here, matching your pace to the wider, calmer flow. Eventually, you reach a quiet bend where the river presses against a small rise and leaves a narrow strip of level bank. The grass here is thicker and drier than up in the snow, a mixture of last year's straw and this year's new growth. You choose a spot where the ground is soft but firm, and sit down with your feet just short of the water's edge. From this low vantage point, the river fills most of your view, a shifting sheet of grey-blue that reflects sky, branches, and your own stillness. You can see the patterns inside it now, the way shallow sandbars push the current aside and create smooth lanes and gentle swirls. A thin branch caught near the shore bobs quietly, its tip tapping the bank in a slow, irregular rhythm. The sounds of the day have become simple. Water moving, a bird calling now and then, the faint rustle of dry stems when the breeze moves through them. The cold that lived in the snow at the top of the hill has stretched, spread, and softened to a cool freshness that is easy to breathe. The journey from hidden trickle to open river has felt unhurried and natural. A line you could trace back up the hillside in your mind if you wanted to. For now, you simply sit and listen to where all the snowmelt steps have brought you, letting the steady, clear flow carry your thoughts along until they too grow quiet.